What is going on, ladies, gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask podcast. How is everybody doing? Did you have a good weekend? I certainly did. I basically did nothing this weekend. I had a whole bunch of plans, but in the end, I just didn't do anything, and it was pretty great. I enjoyed my weekend, chilled out a little bit, watched some movies. I finally watched Bullet Train. It's fucking fantastic. So if you have not seen Bullet Train, go watch Bullet Train. It's fucking great. I also watched Formula One, of course, because we had the Grand Prix of Mexico, and of course we have Sergio Perez, aka Checo Perez, as a driver in Formula One who is Mexican. And that means that there was a whole bunch of pressure on his shoulders. Sadly, he didn't win, but still got a third place, which is, of course, very good. Like, it's for the people there, it's fantastic to see the hometown hero on the podium at the end of the race, shaking that champagne bottle, spraying it all over people. You know, that's what we love to see. It's very sad for the Mexicans because the Mexicans came out in droves, man. That arena bit from the circuit is fucking fantastic. You can hear everybody from top to bottom just yelling for Checo Perez. And it was fucking great. It was absolutely fantastic. But again, like I was saying, it's very sad that he didn't win the Grand Prix. Hopefully next year he has an opportunity again to win the Grand Prix. Because I don't know how long Checo Perez is going to do this for, you know what I mean? Like, he is fucking good, but he is driving a very good car as well. And even with that, you can see that, hey, Max Verstappen is actually driving pretty much in the dust, like leaving him in the dust and just driving on and having like many seconds of difference between them, which again, you always have to think about the fact that you have a car and that could be good, and then you have the driver, which can be good. And if both things are good, you have a great race. And then if one thing is just a little, one thing is fine, then you can change things up a little bit, and therefore the grid changes. But yeah, like, it was great for us as Dutch people to see Max Verstappen win the Grand Prix of Zandvoort last year and now this year again. Like, that's fucking crazy that he did it back to back. And sometimes it seems easy for him, but he does work really hard to get those victories. And again, it's said that Checo Perez couldn't do the same thing in his home country. But again, we have next year. Hopefully he gets used to the car a little bit more now, even though he has been doing fantastic, in my opinion. Getting third places and fourth places just to stay off the competition is absolutely fantastic, especially when he needs to do that the most. So I'm very happy that Checo is the second man behind Max and that he's doing his job. But again, it's sad that he couldn't win his home country Grand Prix. But again, next year is another round, another chances. I also watched UFC, of course. There was a fun UFC card, which sadly ended in an injury, which we never love to see. We know that this is the part of the sport, you know, it's a contact sport. You touch each other, you hit each other, something can go wrong. But having to see somebody basically tweak his knee because he did a jump knee or something like that, that's always sad. Really sad. Then we saw Khalil Roundtree Jr. open the main card. And I am a big fan of Khalil Roundtree Jr. Like, he went away for a little bit, then came back. And then I saw him for the first time, I believe. With UFC, it's always really fun because sometimes I have seen people fight, but they never really caught my eye necessarily. And then you see them back and I think like, oh, maybe I've seen them in the past and I've just wasn't just paying attention to them. But Khalil Roundtree Jr., he did really well. He got caught with some nasty shots, but he took that victory. And some people were a little bit upset by that, but it was a very close fight. So I personally would say that it is all fine by me. Again, big Khalil Roundtree Jr. fan, so of course it's going to be fine by me. But yeah, I would say that it is, he earned that fight. He took it to his opponent and they slugged it out. And he got away with the victory. And then that was basically what my weekend was. You know, like the Grand Prix, pretty much like much the evenings this whole weekend because they were in Mexico. We have the time difference. And then we, of course, had the fucking stupid clock go back, which all throws things in fucking shambles anyways. So, yeah, there was a lot to talk about there, but luckily not as much as last week, because then I was talking to you about this shit for like 12 minutes. And now I'm going to keep it very concise to 5 minutes and a bit. So let's jump into the first question, because this is the podcast where we talk to you about the most popular questions coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit and the MIDSO subreddit. So let's jump into the first question coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit, asked by user Connie_Lingus6969. Nice. If you could vote for one state to leave the US, which would it be and why? The US, of course, 50 states, and all have some goods and some bads. And I'm really thinking about this. But the easy answer to me would be Texas. Because, of course, Texas, lately they kind of seem to forget what America stands for. And America is, of course, land of the free, home of the brave. And in Texas, they, of course, took away the right for abortions. And that is very harmful for many people. And people are finding that out right now. Even people that were for the banning of abortions. Even they are finding out that, hey, maybe this wasn't a smart idea, and maybe we should not have done that, but hey, motherfuckers, you're not too late. Also, Texas is one of those states where I always hear people talking about that they want to become a separate country, and I think that it is an option. It is, I think, in the eyes of the US overall, I think it would be bad, because the US, of course, takes a lot of oil, I believe, out of Texas, because they are very, the ground is very rich there. The ground is filled with fossil fuels. So I think that is very important for the US. But overall, I think that the people there, sometimes not the greatest. I feel like there is this very, I don't know, there's this weird thing where they think like, oh, we are free. And then they take human rights away from people. And then they run around with their guns and their cowboy hats and shit like that. I think that Texas would pretty much be my choice. But there are some fun other choices as well. And for those, I will go to the comments, because I saw a couple fun ones. And this one is very fun from Liam Son. They say, Georgia. If it would become an own country, there will be then 2 Georgias, which would be funny. That would be indeed pretty funny. And I saw another one. This one coming from Winnipessu. Winnipessuke. I don't know what the fuck it is. Coming from Winnipessuke, and they say, my brain says Mississippi for the immediate stat boost, but my heart says I really want to be Bugs Bunny and set Florida adrift. And of course, if you do not know this, there's this famous clip and gif and whatever of Bugs Bunny basically taking a saw and then sawing off Florida and just sending it off, which is of course very funny. So that would also be a very good option. But then again, Disney World is there. You know, we need to go to Disney World. And if Disney World is just somewhere in the fucking whatever, that's not good. Also, the state of Florida has been really getting into Disney World's business lately, which I'm a bit 50-50 on. Like, I'm a big Disney World guy. I love Disney overall. And they have special rules apparently in Disney World, where Disney World is basically their own sovereign state, which is fucking weird to me that is actually a thing. But now the governor of Florida wants to basically overrule that and make it become part of the actual state. But that meant that there are going to be a lot more taxes because people have to be paying for cleanup and whatever. There's this whole infrastructure that Disney World built in their, again, sovereign type state. And it's fucking crazy. So I don't know what I want to do. But again, my heart says Texas. Because again, they wanted themselves. They have been making some dumb decisions about human rights. And I feel like they're forgetting what America really stands for. It's the land of the free, home of the brave. And you don't need to forget that. So if you want to be free, that means absolute freedom. So that means that women can decide if they want to fuck men, women, anything in between, that they can decide if they want to do an abortion or have an abortion or whatever, They have to decide that, not the fucking state. So Texas, you can go bye-bye. Thank you for your question, Kanye_Lingus6969. Moving on to the second question coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit. This one was asked by user Dr. Max the Rabbit, and that is Dr. Max the Rabbit. What celebrity disappeared out of nowhere? And for me, that would be Jess Glynn. I'm a big fan of Jess Glynn, and Jess Glynn is one of the few artists I've seen perform live. The other one would be KSI. Like that, those are the two actual concerts I've been to, which is fucking ridiculous. I just don't like loud music and lots of people together. But those two I really wanted to see, and I've seen KSI now 3 times here in Amsterdam. And then I saw Jess Glynn like 3 years ago, something like that, 4 years ago, maybe even at this point, in Utrecht. And that was really fun. That was really fucking fun. And she just disappeared. Like, Jess Glynn has been doing things all over the place. Like, she's done features and she has done her own albums. But lately she has not really been doing much. And that was because she had like a dispute with her label, and then she decided to leave the label, and that has caused a whole bunch of fuss. But then, like a couple of weeks ago, when Beyonce dropped her album, Jess Glynn all of a sudden posted on Instagram again, and I was very confused by that, because I was just like, what the fuck? She's back, but then after that, she has really gone black again. And it was also like, I know for a fact that it was also partly based because of the fact that she got trolled on Twitter like really hard about gay rights and trans lives and whatever the fuck. So that was when she was like, okay, well, fuck this, and I'm gonna leave Twitter and whatever the fuck. So since then, she's really been offline. And then, again, she broke up with her label, and that resulted in her not really doing much. So that is my answer to your question. Dr. Max the Rabbit, what celebrity disappeared out of nowhere? And I would say Jess Glynn, even though it is kind of not out of nowhere, but also kind of is. But to me, if you want to leave your label, I don't think you should just go totally black. You should leave your label and then take all the momentum that you have to the next gig or to the next spot where you're going to. And by going dark, you're not doing that. So that would be my answer to you, Dr. Max the Rabbit. Thank you for your question. Moving on to the third question already of today, coming from user 2JBK. And they ask, what's your main reason for not having more sex? I have said this in the past. I am still a virgin. But what is my reasoning for not having more sex? Like, personally, I am very awkward around people. I like talking to people, to women mostly. I like talking to them, but I never really, I don't know, there's never really been a point where I was like, oh, this feels really good, let me ask XYZ, or SEX in this case. And I don't know, to me, there are so many things that go into this, because I personally think that, okay, well, let me reel it back. Like, I don't really, like I said in the previous question, I don't really go out that much. I don't go to clubs, I don't go to bars, I don't go to parties and whatever the fuck. I don't really do that. I don't like that shit. So I prefer to stay at home and do whatever the fuck. So normally that wouldn't be that big of a deal when you are a kid in school, because then you have your classmates and then you can have relationships that way and then hang around those people for the whole day and then, meet after school and whatever. Now I have a normal job. So that means that I have coworkers that I have to communicate with. And then when I get home, I am basically knackered and I just don't want to do anything else. So I don't do anything else really. But that is where the huge issue is, because then the only people that would be, for me then, interesting as in a person to date, that would be my coworkers. And I've learned, don't shit where you eat, because this can only end badly, and it will end in some weird relationships at work, and not just saying relationships as in romantic relationships, but like work relationships as well. Because what if I decide like, hey, I'm going to go with this coworker and we're going to have dinner and whatever, and things happen, and then we meet each other the next day and we go, it was kind of a mistake. And then it's going to be really awkward to work with those people, or with that person in, specifically. And then you're going to have that, and how the fuck you going to explain that to your other coworkers? And, oh, you guys had sex? Oh, that's fucking weird. Because like this shit happened in college for me, where this is a fucking mad story, but follow me. There was this guy in our class, and he was like basically very like feminine, but like in a weird way where not weird way, but like in a way where people were just like, hey, he might be gay. And then one of the girls straight up asked him like, hey dude, we were wondering, are you gay? Like it's totally fine with us, but like we were just wondering, are you gay? And he was just like, no, I'm not gay, I will show you. And then they had sex, and I'm just fucking I was, especially at that time when I was like 16, I was fucking mind blown that shit happened. How the fuck did that happen? My man was just like, oh yeah, we think you're gay. And he was just like, nah, I'm not, I can show you. And then they had sex? That's fucking crazy to me. Apparently the sex wasn't good, so judgment's still out there if he is gay or not. But it was one of those things where it was just like, how the fuck do these people get to a point in their life where they're so comfortable? How do these people come to a point in their life when they're so comfortable with themselves and their sexuality and each other that they can just be like, you know what? I'm not gay. I will show you tonight. Come over to my place and I will fuck you. They're like what the fuck? To me, that is so mind-boggling, right? But like that is basically what happens here as well, where it's just like, I am of the mind that sex should be special in the very slightest of things. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there should be a special bond. I am not a person that goes like, oh, I want to have a one night stand and just move on. I probably cannot do that. I'm going to get attached to that person, and that's not who I am. So what is the main reason, going back to the question as by a user 2JBK, and they ask, what's your main reason for not having more sex? It's like, personally, I think that I am looking for more of a connection than just having sex. And I don't really can make those connections because I don't leave my house very much. And if I do, I will meet with coworkers. And if I'm with coworkers, that means XYZ. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to shit where I eat. Even though lots of ladies at the office, very good looking ladies, very nice ladies, and I wouldn't mind. I'm going to say that, and that's what I'm going to leave it for this question. So thank you for your question to JBK. Moving on to the fourth question coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, and this one was asked by user Yodwinder_sing_man, and they ask, straight man of Reddit, would you suck a dick for $100,000? Why or why not? I personally think that my answer would be no, and it's a joke that's like, what's the funny, what is gay? Sucking a dick or get your dick sucked? Which is always funny to think about when people do that. But would I suck a dick for $100,000? I don't think that $100,000, especially in today's economic climate, I think it's not that much. And the thing is, like, this answer depends on a couple of things. Again, I want my answer to be no, stern. But like the question is like, whose dick am I sucking? You know, I mean, if it's Chris Hemsworth, then the answer might be maybe. I don't know. Chris Hemsworth, good looking guy. You know, seems very clean. So $100,000, maybe. But like personally, I would say the answer is no. I am not into that stuff. And going back to the previous question, like I want sex to be special, so I'm not gonna just, you know, do all the things. And with that, I don't think that $100,000 is that much. Again, it's a lot of money, but like it's not that much. It's not life-changing, you know, money, in my opinion. Again, it can help you change your life in a certain bit, but like I don't think it's life-changing money. If we're talking about like, I don't know, if somebody was like, okay, I'm gonna give you $500,000. So like $500,000, not even $1 million. $1 million, it would be very much, okay? But like, I'm gonna give you $500,000. I would be like, maybe. Then the thinking really starts going, where it's just like, well, with $500,000, I can buy a house and just be, you know, good, have a house, don't even have to have a mortgage, just pay off everything, just straight cash, and just live in that house for the rest of my life, and that would be fantastic. Right. So for that money, I'd be like, well, maybe 500,000, but 100,000, I think it's just a little too much to walk around with that. So going back to the question asked by user Yodwinder_sing_man, straight man of Reddit, would you suck a dick for $100,000? Why or why not? And the answer is probably not. I think that $100,000 is just a little too low for me. Even though, again, it's a lot of money, I don't think it is life-changing money. It will help you in a whole bunch of things, but I don't think that I'm at a point in my life where the $100,000 is not necessarily something I need per se. So maybe if the money is a little better, I would consider it. But for now, I would say the answer is no. But again, if somebody has a better offer, please hit me up. Moving on to the final question coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, asked by user Mr. Serotonin. And they ask, what is your favorite Christmas movie? Today, when I'm recording this, it is Halloween, so happy Halloween, and sing the song. Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. So, it is Halloween, so happy Halloween again. So that means that we're gonna get closer and closer to Christmas, which means it's time for the Christmas movie. And I personally have one favorite movie, and it is No Sleep Till Christmas. It's a stupid Hallmark type movie, but it has one of my favorite internet people, Stacey McGonigal, in it. And I love Stacey McGonigal. I've talked about her on this podcast probably before. She is one of the reasons why I started podcasting myself, because I love listening to her podcast, and then I got to meet her, and she's a great comedian. She sadly doesn't do her podcast anymore because she's way too busy being a successful sketch comedy actress in a very popular Canadian show. So very happy for her for that. I'm very sad for myself that I'm not going to get any podcasts anymore, but hey, that's how life goes, right? We cannot have control over everything. But she is in that movie, and it's a very fun movie. It's it's a Hallmark type movie, and it is, I think it was maybe even a Freeform movie, which actually would be, in my opinion, is better because Freeform is, of course, is Disney. So that means that Stacey McGonigal is actually a Disney princess, in my opinion. And, yeah, it is a very fun movie. It's fucking stupid. It's really dumb. It's about these two people that have never met, and then they both have issues sleeping. But when they are with each other, they somehow fall asleep immediately and just have the best night's rest ever. So that leads to some weird situations where they go to hotels and parking lots and whatever fuck to literally sleep with each other, not have sex, just sleep next to each other and then sleep better. And then it's a whole fucking thing. But it is really fucking fun. And again, Stacey is in there, so that makes me happy. And I watch it every Christmas, and I've been doing that for the past, 3-4 years. And it is really fun to just go back to that thing. And I believe it's on Disney Plus in the UK. So if you're looking to watch it, it's on Disney Plus. Go watch that shit. So, going back to the question, asked by user Mr. Serotonin. And they ask, what is your favorite Christmas movie? And I would say, No Sleep Till Christmas, starring Odette and Dave Annabelle, who I believe just had kids. Had just a second kid, I believe. Which is, of course, very cool. Congratulations. Yeah, that would be my answer to this question. I really love this movie. It's really stupid. But again, it has Stacey McGonigal in there, and I love Stacey McGonigal. So it's really fun to watch that every year and be like, hey, that's Stacey. I've met her. I have a picture with her on my wall. It's Stacey. Yay. So yeah, that would be my answer to you, Mr. Serotonin. And now, moving on to the final question of today, of course, coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit, from user Said and exhausted 133, and they ask, am I the asshole for missing my father-in-law's funeral after my mother-in-law booked my husband's first class but me economy? Me, a 31-year-old female, and my mother-in-law don't have a close relationship. She is civil towards me, but can be a bit passive-aggressive at times, and we tend to disagree oftentimes. We live in a different state. Father-in-law passed away suddenly, and mother-in-law told me and my husband to come attend the funeral. She booked our tickets to fly to her state, but the issue started when my husband told me that we couldn't sit together in the plane because his mom had booked him first-class tickets while I got economy. I was flabbergasted by this. I tried asking him why, but he urged me to suck it up and we'll talk about it later. In that particular moment, I felt so much humiliation and contempt. I felt like she was treating me as less than even in her hard times. I decided to not go and just go back home. My husband was shocked by my decision to go home and tried to convince me to just go, but I declined. He went alone and I ended up missing the funeral. He was livid, just calling me and texting nasty things, calling me petty and spoiled. He said that I should be grateful his mom paid for my tickets to begin with, then said that she doesn't owe me a goddamn thing. I argued about how she could have just booked us both economy if money was an issue, but he called me pathetic for thinking about it when his dad just died. He said it was cruel what I did, and that his mom and family will never forget that I missed the funeral over ridiculous reasons. Am I the asshole for going home? Okay, so there is a little extra piece over here, which I think is important. Sometimes I skip this because I don't really care, but I think this one is important. One of the reasons I didn't settle for economy ticket was because I wanted to sit next to my husband and support him. He sobbed the whole ride to the airport, and I didn't want to leave his side. I was shocked when he told me we couldn't sit together, and he said it like he had no issue with it. So, this is a very fun one, because are you the asshole? Yes, you are the asshole in this situation. But I feel like the mother-in-law is an asshole as well. Because, yeah, like you're saying, she could have just booked you both economy tickets and everything would have been fine. I think that him saying that, oh, I got a first class ticket and you got an economy ticket, we cannot sit together. I will bet your fucking bottom dollar that anybody in that fucking plane would have switched with your seat. I think that everybody in this fucking plane would have switched your seat if they got the opportunity to. Just take a look. Sometimes there are even seats open, because I flew to London a couple of weeks ago. Probably mentioned it on the podcast before. And I and my grandpa had an extra seat on both the flight there and the flight back. Like, there was no issue whatsoever. So I think that even if you have a first class ticket, you can probably go to economy and then maybe find an empty seat, or even again switch your seats with somebody that's in economy and just be like, hey, I want to be with my wife, or like, you know what I mean? And then just switch the seat and send that person to first class. It is, again, a bitch move from your mother-in-law to do this shit, but the way that you reacted to this is, in my opinion, way over the top. I don't know how far this flight is, because, you know, maybe it is a fucking 12-hour flight, because it's the US, in which if you're going from Los Angeles, California to New York, it's gonna take a couple of hours to be in that fucking plane. But I honestly wouldn't be like, I would be mad, and I would probably have words with the mother-in-law, just be like, hey, what the fuck was up with this shit? You booked him a first class ticket and me an economy. That's some petty bullshit. I don't really like this. But like you are saying, poster, at the extra bit that you added to the fucking message, one of the reasons you wanted to be next to him was because he sobbed the whole way there and you wanted to be by his side. And what the fuck did you decide to do? You decide to just pack up your shit and leave in totality. So now you're not only not with him on the plane, you're just not even with him at the fucking funeral. And that is what the biggest issue is, in my opinion. Like, you're saying that you want to be next to him and by his side to be through this and work with him and support him because he was sobbing and whatever the fuck bullshit. And then you decide to just flat out just pack your bags and just leave the airport altogether. In my opinion, that is an even bigger offense than your mother-in-law booking you an economy ticket. And again, like he is saying, I kind of agree with that. Like, she didn't even have to book those tickets. She could have just been like, hey, I want you guys to be here and figure it out. No, she booked you these tickets for you to be there. And now you just flat off and leave to just be even more disrespectful than she was. Like, nah. In my opinion, you are the asshole. But again, the mother-in-law is the asshole as well for booking you a fucked up ticket. And then the reaction your husband has been giving you as well is like also been pretty bad. But I kind of understand it when his father just died and then has to deal with this bullshit. So going to your question, original poster, sad and exhausted 133. Am I the asshole for missing my father-in-law's funeral after my mother-in-law booked my husband first class but me economy? Yes, you're the asshole, but your mother-in-law is the asshole too. So I think that this one can be sampled with everyone fucking sucks. And that's going to be it for me for this week episode of the Didn't Ask podcast. I hope you had a good time. And if you did, please leave a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, because both places give you the ability to leave a rating, and that would help the show tremendously. If you want to ask me a question, you can go to anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. Over here, you can find a button that says message. If you press that, you get the ability to record a voice memo for me, which I can then play on this right here show. If you don't want your voice to be heard on here, then I can totally understand that. Just say it somewhere in your message and I will read the question out myself so you can get your questions answered, but still be anonymous. You can go to anchor.fm as well to see where all the places this podcast is available on. It's basically everywhere. It's on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Podcast Addict, you name it. The fucking podcast is there. If it's not, just let me know by pressing that message button that I mentioned earlier. Well, I'm going to be back next week. And in the meantime, and in between time, you can go to track.tv. Over here, you can see all the TV shows and movies that I'm watching. Again, I watched Bullet Train. It was really good. I'm watching Unsolved Mystery on Netflix right now. It's also really fucking good. I'm going through Love is Blind right now. The new season has been up for a couple of weeks, and that's really fun. We're still doing Stargirl. We're doing Chucky right now. It's been great for TV. Well, and that link will be in the show description, by the way. Well, that's going to do it for me for this week. I hope to see you back next week. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.